tuning in for this month's National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance webinar. I'm going to give it one more minute while people continue to join the audience, and then I will kick us off. And a few people have already started, but if you are so inclined, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and share where you're joining from. All right, we've got a decent number of people in the audience already, so I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. Thank you all for joining the April webinar of the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance, hosted by the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, or IREC, and made possible with support from Bank of America. Today's presentation is Connecting Job Seekers to Registered Apprenticeship Pathways. And I'm Gwen Brown, IREC's Vice President of Communications, and I'll be emceeing today's presentation on behalf of our usual host, my colleague, Pagan Bajoni, who is currently traveling. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers today, and I will introduce them shortly. But before that, I'm just going to give a little bit of background and cover a few key logistics for today's event. Next slide, please. All right. I know many of you are regulars on the Alliance webinars and already know IREC, but for those of you who may not, the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, or IREC, is a national nonprofit working to build the foundation for rapid adoption of clean energy and energy efficiency for everyone. And our goal is to have that transition benefit people, the economy, and our planet. And that word foundation is really key. Across all of our work, we're really focused on creating the conditions in which these industries can thrive. We do this across three core areas. So we have a regulatory engagement program that helps create the policy and market conditions for clean energy to scale. We have a local initiatives program that helps communities adopt resilient energy solutions. And third, our workforce development program, which today's presentation is hosted by. Our workforce development program builds connections between job seekers, employers, education providers, and community-based organizations. And across this work, we provide technical assistance to advance innovative workforce solutions. And we also award nationally recognized credentials to clean energy training programs, helping to ensure quality training and stronger pathways into good jobs. Next slide. Before we get started, I'm just going to share a few quick housekeeping notes. First, closed captioning is enabled for those, or is available for those of you who may need it. Please select Show Caption from the controls at the bottom of your screen if you'd like to enable it. We have set all participants on mute, but we do encourage you to use the Q&A feature to submit questions at any point during the webinar, and we'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions and discussion. And lastly, I want to note that IREC has made a policy not to allow AI note takers or bots in our webinars, so those that join will be removed. And finally, you can expect to get a copy of today's slides and a recording of the presentation, as well as some follow-up resources by email after the webinar. Next slide, please. Here's a quick overview of what we'll cover today. I'm going to get us started with a brief introduction to the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance, including how it's structured and some of the things that we have planned for 2026. Then for our feature presentation, my colleague Matthew Harris will introduce you to the Apprenticeships in Clean Energy Network, or ACE Network, and provide an overview of a new apprenticeship-ready course that IREC is launching under this program. After that, we'll hear from several Alliance member organizations. So those are Solar Energy International, Climate Action Pathways for Schools, or CAPS, SkyMast Energy, and Independent Electrical Contractors Association, or IEC. Members from each of these, or presenters from each of these organizations, who I will introduce shortly, will share their perspectives and connections to registered apprenticeship pathways. And then finally, as I mentioned, we'll wrap up with time for questions and share some next steps for staying engaged. Next slide. All right. Now, let me introduce my fellow presenters, and I'd like to invite each of them to turn their camera on as they're introduced so you can put a face to the name. Our first presenter is my colleague at IRAC, Matthew Harris. Matthew is IRAC's Director of Workforce Training and Community Engagement, and he has been leading the development of the Apprenticeship Ready course that we'll be showcasing today. Next, we have Christopher Turek. Chris works for Solar Energy International, or SEI, where he is the Vice President of Marketing and Business Development. Our third speaker is Kirk Ann Taylor, the Executive Director of Climate Action Pathways for Schools, or CAPS. And our fourth speaker is Amy Lesniak, Director of People and Systems Strategy at SkyMast Energy. Finally, we will hear from Natasha Sherwood. Natasha is the Chapter and Workforce Development Director at Independent Electrical Contractors, Inc., or IEC. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, and as I know many of you are aware, today's presentation is part of the work of the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance, which IRAC leads. The Alliance is a cross-sector effort to improve clean energy education, training, and job placement outcomes, and ensure that clean energy job opportunities are inclusive of diverse candidates and underserved communities. The Alliance functions as a connected ecosystem rather than just a single program. It brings together employers, workforce and education partners, training providers, researchers, funders, and policymakers working across clean energy and energy efficiency sectors. And since January 2022, the Alliance has held regular convenings with more than 2,800 organizations across those categories. Through structured and intentional meetings, we are focused on collectively identifying and sharing resources and information to develop concrete solutions to shared workforce challenges. Next slide. Now I'm just going to briefly touch upon some of the objectives that the Alliance has this year. A big focus of the Alliance is our ongoing webinar series, of which this presentation is a part. We host a presentation every other month on the fourth Wednesday, and our next presentation will be on June 24th. As a side note, if you're not already subscribed to the Alliance email updates, you can sign up with the QR code here on this slide, and we'll also drop that in the chat. This year, we also have a commitment to convene several Midwest-focused events focused on co-designing workforce solutions. So if you're based in the Midwest and your organization might be interested in collaborating or participating, please reach out to my colleague, Pagan Pajoni, whose email we will also drop in the chat shortly. And with that, I am going to turn things over to Matthew Harris to kick off our feature presentation for today. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Gwen, and welcome everybody. So happy that you've made it here and spending some time with us to listen to all of our presenters today. It's been wonderful reading in the chat where you're all coming from. It reminds me of that book, which, geez, must be 15 plus years old now, called Blessed Unrest. If you've read it, put a thumbs up in the chat or something, from Paul Hawken. But it's about all the many nonprofit and community organizations dedicated to environmental and social justice, and this idea that we really are the foundation and the strength of these movements. And it's massive, and it's really wonderful to see all the people here today. And I applaud all the work that you're doing out in the places that you do that work. As Gwen said, I'm the Director of Workforce Training and Community Engagement here at IREC. And I've spent a lot of my career in training, in renewable energy training, and really love what comes from the empowerment of educating people in these trades. So I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about the ACE Network today and this course that we're launching real soon in the coming week or so. But first, if you haven't heard about registered apprenticeships, they're one of the most proven workforce strategies that we have, right? They create these sort of direct connections between training and employment through paid on-the-job learning. And in clean energy and energy efficiency, where employers are struggling to find skilled workers, these pathways are really critical, not just for individuals, but for scaling the workforce needed to advance deployment across the country. If you're into reports, you might have read that the average percentage employers reporting some level of hiring difficulty across energy efficiency sectors is about 85%. That's according to the U.S. Energy and Employment Report from 2025. And IREC has reported through our census, our solar job census, that solar employers have reported some level of hiring difficulty around 90%. So, the ACE network is not really a new idea. We've already demonstrated that it works. Since adding ACE network opportunities to Green Workforce Connect, which I'll mention here in a little bit, IREC's workforce development platform has supported over 1,000 apprentices, worked in nearly 400 employers, and built a national footprint, raising awareness of registered apprenticeships across more than 30 states. And what we're focused on now is scaling that impact, strengthening those connections between employers, training providers, and job seekers to make apprenticeship pathways more accessible nationwide. So registered apprenticeship, it follows a structured process, but the key takeaway here is that they're employer driven. Programs are designed around real workforce needs, combining on-the-job training with related instruction. And while there are several steps to launching a program, employers don't have to navigate this alone. And that's where the ACE network comes in, the Apprenticeship and Clean Energy Network. And along with free one-on-one technical assistance and group sessions, IREC also has a number of resources and tools and templates available to support you if you're interested in starting a registered apprenticeship program. So what are some of those resources? We've developed a set of practical resources. They're going to support employers and partners at every stage of the apprenticeship process. And these resources are the result of collaborative efforts of partner organizations and industry subject matter experts, including SEIA, the Solar Energy Industries Association, BPA, the Building Performance Association, MREA, the Midwest Renewable Energy Association, and numerous other sponsors, employers, training providers, and IREC partners in clean energy and energy efficiency industries, including some of the organizations that you're about to hear from today. So here's a few of the resources that we created. We will put links to them in the chat, and I'm sure in the follow-up email. But providing toolkits for understanding step-by-step guidance to design registered apprenticeship programs, national guideline standards, the frameworks around apprenticeship, and some occupation guides. So we'll get those links to you so you can dig into them more. As I mentioned, the impact, this is a proven model. We've already seen strong outcomes, but the real opportunity now is really scaling this into a national workforce system that can meet the growing demand for clean energy and energy efficiency workers. I mentioned the 1,000 apprentices we connected, the 400 plus employers supported, the many states we engaged in, and we have 62 active apprenticeship programs as a result of that work. All right, so as I said, what we're building here is infrastructure. The ACE network provides the technical assistance, the outreach tools, and the direct candidate connections. But more importantly, it helps create a coordinated ecosystem where employers, training providers, and workforce partners are collaborating. And that alignment is what will support apprenticeship programs in clean energy and energy efficiency to scale effectively. So now I get to talk about something really exciting that we're working on, which is a new online course. We recognize that there was a gap, especially for students and job seekers. Like, many people are interested in clean energy careers, but they don't understand what registered apprenticeships are, or how they work, or how to get started. And so we developed this resource to address that directly. It's called the Apprenticeship Ready Exploring Career Pathways course. It's a self-paced online course designed for students and job seekers. It introduces the basics of registered apprenticeships, helps learners explore different clean energy career pathways, and and importantly, guides them toward taking real next steps. And the goal here just isn't awareness, but it's action. We want people to leave this course with a clear understanding of their options and a concrete plan for how to move forward into an apprenticeship pathway. So a little bit of a sneak peek of the modules. The course is structured to move learners from awareness to action, starting with understanding apprenticeships, then exploring potential career pathways, and ultimately preparing them to apply and succeed in a program. And this aligns directly with our broader goal of strengthening workforce pathways, not just informing people, but helping them move forward. All the course completers will earn a 100% authenticated, always up to date, apprenticeship ready digital badge. And the course is also accompanied by what we're calling a clean energy registered apprenticeship playbook, which I'll show you here in a moment. And this is designed, it's optional, we really sort of encourage the use of it throughout the course, and it's designed to work alongside it, not as sort of busy work, but as a practical tool that turns what the participants in the course are learning into a personalized career plan and really make them apprenticeship ready. And like I said, we'll take a look at that here in a second. So a bit about more about the badge and why we think it's important. The digital badge plays this important role in signaling readiness. It tells employers that this individual understands apprenticeship pathways and has taken steps to prepare. And because it's connected to the ACE network, it allows us to directly link those candidates to employers and programs looking for talent. So the digital badge, if you're not familiar with them, it's a clickable credential, lets employers and others confirm what the course completer learned with sort of a single click and a view of all that information. If you earn the badge, you could display it on LinkedIn, in your email signature, on resumes, and anywhere that you present your qualifications. So the course has a cost, but we're trying to be very intentional about reducing barriers. And so we have access codes and partner distribution, also with support from funders, including Invest in Our Future. We're able to provide free access to students and job seekers, especially those from underrepresented populations and or individuals living in disadvantaged communities. And this is critical to ensuring that apprenticeship pathways are not just available, but accessible and inclusive. We're going to provide an access code for all Alliance members, but we do request you cover your own costs if it's possible, because this allows us to support more students and more job seekers. And for organizations looking, say, for like cohort access or a custom landing page to the course, or maybe wish to sponsor access for additional learners, we have packages, sponsorship packages and options for that as well. And so we will be in communication with all of you on this webinar afterwards with more information about all of those things, including access codes and the like. A brief message about Green Workforce Connect, and then I want to show you the course, and then we'll move on to our first presenter, or second presenter, I guess. So Green Workforce Connect, if you're not familiar, is really the backbone of this system. It's bringing together job seekers, employers, training providers into one platform, supporting career exploration, recruitment, and job placement. And as we continue to integrate it with our learning platform, we're able to track and support individuals from initial interest all the way through employment. So I encourage you all to go to greenworkforceconnect.org and check out all the great work that we've been doing there over the last couple of years. So I want to take a peek at the course, and then I also would like Gwen to pop in and just let me know how much time I have. That'll dictate for me a little bit what I show.
You've got about 10 minutes left in your section.
Oh, great. Y'all want to take the course together? Okay, so I wanted to show you a couple things. As I said, the course is going to launch within a week or so. So we're busy doing a lot of the punch list activities to get it ready. You're looking at sort of an editing mode, so apologize for that if the view is a little weird. But each module, I said there's 4 modules. It's going to, kind of begin with a welcome, but really getting into what we're going to talk about in the module throughout all the lessons and the learning outcomes. So we kind of have that. And we're really trying to design this course to be accessible in terms of like the time commitment, right? We think that learners might spend 8 to 10 hours total to go through all the content and fill in the playbook activities. So when you start getting into the lessons, they're structured with the learner in mind. Excuse the rendering there. You've got your learning objective, and then each lesson is anchored by a video that is the main content for the lesson that is narrated by either my colleague Pagan Pogioni, who was mentioned earlier, or myself. Uh, and um, and so the learner will be able to listen to that video as well as there will be a transcription for them to read. And then they move on from learning the content, listening to the content, to some kind of activity. We want to sort of test knowledge right away. All of our videos are meant to be short. Um, there's a lot of content when it comes to registered apprenticeship and clean energy opportunities. And so we tried really hard to kind of live by this 7-minute rule, plus or minus, on the videos. But after each video, we want to test your knowledge. In this case, what you're looking at here is just a little interactive activity where you could click on a state. We just have a few sampled here, and then we provide a link where you can learn about every state. But you click on it and you can understand, what are the total renewable energy jobs in that state. And this is coming from the E2 Energy report. And then we also want to check for understanding and do that in a variety of different ways to kind of make it interactive and playful. In this case, it's kind of a matching exercise. So if you try to put it over what you think it is and you get it wrong, it's going to tell you no. If you get it right, give you a little check mark and so forth. And so, again, this idea of like guiding the learner through different ways to comprehend information and sort of prove and check your understanding. Another thing I wanted to show here in module 1 was just another example of that. So instead of like a matching activity, we got multiple choice questions, and trying to keep them simple and really relatable to the things that are the key takeaways in each video. And speaking of that, well, before I mention that, there's another interactive activity which I think might be interesting for people to understand. It's like, okay, here's a couple different scenarios that what you're interested in as the learner. I want to help people directly make their homes more comfortable. And so let's learn about the day in the life of an HVAC technician and click to a few more resources that could help give you some more ideas of what skills and other things are needed to do that job. I'm interested about emerging technology and innovation, energy storage and battery technician. Okay, let's learn about that. So really just trying to make it interactive, and then always summarizing, tell them what you're going to tell them and then summarize and tell them what you told them, type of thing. So all those key takeaways and additional resources that are available. If I come over to module 2, I wanted to give you a sense of a different kind of activity here. So this is a kind of a scenario situation. We've got 3 different people here that are coming from different work and life experiences. This person, I've been working in retail management and I want better pay and benefits. And so the exercise here is like, would registered apprenticeship be a good fit after you've learned about all of this in the video prior? And so you can kind of go through these scenarios and choose what you want. If you choose no, she might want you to try again. Choose correctly, she's happy, and you move on. I guess I was at the end there. Here's a graduate from high school who tried college, but they learn better by doing than by reading textbooks. So would registered apprenticeship be a good fit for this woman here, right? And so kind of just giving different types of activities for people to engage with. And then speaking of those, in lesson 3, here's a matching activity. So we're talking about the different types of registered apprenticeships, sort of their characteristics. So we got time-based, competency-based, and hybrid programs. Here's a definition, and getting people to try to match them, making the activities different and engaging along the way. And a similar one in lesson 4 that I wanted to show, just to kind of give you a sense of how we're getting in module 4 to really helping people understand skills, barriers, and different opportunities in terms of resources that could be available to you to help really prepare you to enter into the workforce, whether it's through the choice of a registered apprenticeship or another pathway. But we have an activity in here which is just listing a lot of different types of skills and scenarios again. Like, when a homeowner looked confused about what I was explaining, I put down my tool, sat with them, and used their monthly bill to illustrate. Okay, what does that represent in terms of skills? So we're really trying to give that comprehensive perspective. And then the last thing I'll just show you is the playbook. And this is meant to be used electronically, or you could print it out and write your answers in. It has fillable PDF cells, if you will. Kind of gives you a sense of what the purpose of this is and how to use it. But then it's all tied to each module. Not every lesson has a playbook activity, but the ones that we thought were important to really get people to think about what they just learned, think about their own situation and themselves and their interests. Why does clean energy efficiency matter to you? Career discovery and geographic consideration. So we really try to take a comprehensive look of, like, if I really want to do this, what are all the things that I need to think about, including kind of jotting down things about your background, the skills that you have. And I think really where the sort of rubber meets the road, if you will, excuse the scrolling while I come down to module 4 here. But really getting into first here, like evaluating program quality, the different types of programs that are available, union, non-union, pre-apprenticeship, which we're about to hear from Chris Turek at Solar Energy International about. But also there's a section here, I might have skipped it, but I'll just say it, where we have you go do some research on some programs and write some information down that is key to understand about them. And then, here in module 4, just really like taking some time to think about what types of work environments do you like to work in, the pace and rhythm, your relationship to technology, your people interaction, physical demands, a lot of things that'll help you really understand the type of work that you might want to do. Take an inventory of the skills you have, your work preferences. Let's rank them. What type of environments do you like to work in? And then we get into some application. Here's the application research piece that I was just mentioning. And then again, excuse the fast scrolling, but preparing for interviews. Let's practice answering some questions that you might get in an interview, because apprenticeship really is like a job interview, right? It's like going for a real job. And so let's think about how you answer all these things based on everything else that you just filled out in this playbook to really prepare yourself for the career that's of interest to you. So with that, I'm going to stop and pass it on to our next presenter. I hope that was interesting and informational for you. And again, you'll be getting information about the course when it's going to launch, but certainly reach out to us. Be proactive if you are interested and you're excited to see it and take it or pass it on to people that you know. So with that, I'll get the presentation back up and invite Chris Turek to begin his slideshow.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt. Yeah, we're really excited about seeing the new online course, and we'll be talking a little bit during my presentation about how we plan here at Solar Energy International to be incorporating this new resource into our students and our employers that we work with. But first off, my name is Chris Turek. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Marketing here at Solar Energy International. If you're not familiar with SEI, I know many of you on the call today are probably SEI alumni, or you're putting some of your employees through our training, or maybe it's how you got your start in the solar industry. But we are celebrating our 35th year of nonprofit service to the clean energy sector this year. So we're really excited about that. We've been longtime friends of both Matt Harris and IREC for many, many years. And whenever we see initiatives like this coming around, it really allows us as a nonprofit, a 35-year-old nonprofit, to kind of look at things that we've done in the past, things we're doing well, how we can reorganize things into pathways that are keeping up and keeping abreast with what's going on in workforce development in the clean energy sector. And so the really exciting thing I'll be talking with you about today, not just only who Solar Energy International is and what we've been doing for the last 35 years, but how we're kind of modifying and evolving some of our program structures. So next slide. Okay, so in the past, I'd say few years, we've been doing a lot of apprenticeship programs support, I would call that, specifically with Oregon and Florida as they were launching apprenticeship programs in those states, where a lot of those organized programs were adopting Solar Energy International's online programs and in-person training as related instruction. So if you're not familiar with SEI, we have over 600 contact hours of very specific solar photovoltaic training courses and learning modules. And so a lot of training providers and other organizations were adopting our content. And recently, with the growth of registered apprenticeship programs, working with employers to adopt our training into registered apprenticeship programs. But what we found during that process, especially with the Inflation Reduction Act, as apprenticeships became a necessity, a requirement, we saw a lot of employers creating program structures, but also struggling a little bit with creating a very good talent pipeline. Like, where do we find a very pre-qualified, a good candidate? Because jumping right into an apprenticeship program, because you are earning while you work, right? You're getting a job, you're actually working in the industry while you're taking related instruction, both, hands-on, on-job learning, and then also classroom. And we were getting some feedback from employers that sometimes the retention rate wasn't as high as they would hoped, or maybe the candidate that they hired on wasn't, it wasn't a good match for either one of them. And so when we started looking at what we offer, I mean, with over 400 contact hours of training, and we train every 6 weeks, every Monday, every 6 weeks, we have 150 to 300 new students coming into SEI's online program. So just organically speaking, SEI's online campus was just this perfect talent pipeline into all of these employers. But what we needed to do is to really kind of formalize that a little bit more. And so we're going to be talking a little bit more today about what we're calling the SEI Pre-Apprenticeship Plus pathway. But before that, next slide, we're going to talk about some of the challenges. I know this is some data that Matt covered a little bit, but I think it's really critical for us to review some of these things because, we see these annual statistics and reports, but, from SEI's perspective, we're hearing from the hundreds of employers that we're serving every year, the thousands of students that we're serving, is that there's this disconnect of we're training a lot of people, but how are we getting them into this talent pipeline that's getting them into meaningful, well-paying jobs? And I really, truly believe that the apprenticeship pathway is not a better way, but maybe an additional way of the way the solar industry has been performing in the past. So just to look at some of the statistics, 3.3 million new clean energy jobs by 2030. Like Matt discussed earlier, we've got a 40% growth rate in solar installation, construction trades. That's been a big thing that I have personally seen over the last 3 years, especially going to RE Plus and some of these other major national conferences. Is it's really awesome to see like the IBEW, the IEC, some of LIUNA, some of these major trade organizations being at the solar industry trade shows, because they see the solar industry as a core part of the general construction trades, which it very much is. And so being able to see these pathways of, you might want to start in solar, but who knows, maybe you'll go into a broader licensed electrician pathway. So we're really excited to see that solar could be a starting point, but then could end up being in a unionized IBEW electrician's job. So we're really excited about that. Some more of the challenges, like Matt pointed out, 89% of solar employers are reporting difficulty finding good qualified candidates. Call us here at SEI. We've got 150,000 alumni. We'd love to connect some of our folks with those jobs. And obviously, like I pointed out, the Inflation Reduction Act apprenticeship provisions requiring apprenticeship. One of the interesting things that we've seen is, even above and beyond the Inflation Reduction Act, a requirement for apprenticeships, is we've been talking to a lot of employers that are seeing registered apprenticeship programs as a great way to help ensure retention, right? Whenever an employer is investing a lot of that time and effort with on-the-job learning or even third-party training like Solar Energy International, that's a lot of, additional resources you're putting into those employees. And they're finding that a registered apprenticeship program helps with that retention because that individual knows that they're getting good training that's aligned with a wage and there's a pathway for advancement within that company. So I think all of these elements really point to why registered apprenticeship programs are going to be a great pathway forward in the clean energy sector. Next slide. Okay, so the SEI Pre-Apprenticeship Plus program, what is it? For years, SEI has been training people really organically, either employers sending their people to our training or new job seekers finding Solar Energy International online and taking our courses either online or in person at our lab facility in Colorado. But what we were witnessing is we were creating articulation agreements with workforce development programs at the community college level, but we hadn't really established those same types of connections with trader organizations like the Independent Electrical Contractors Association or the IBEW or other regional cooperative apprenticeship programs. For instance, in Colorado, we're working with an organization called CAM Solar, who they offer multiple apprenticeship programs that lead to licensure. And so what we did is we've been working with a lot of these organizations on different grant programs and different partnerships. But we really sat down and said, okay, how can we formalize this? How can typically a pre-apprenticeship program typically is usually a few hours of orientation, maybe an afternoon or a weekend to learn some very basic skills, like how to wear a hard hat, maybe basic tool knowledge. But a lot of SEI students, when they're coming to take SEI training, they might be launching into like a 60 contact hour PV 101 course that leads into our 202 National Electrical Code solar course. And so what we were finding is those students had already kind of launched their way into the related instruction, but yet they were not in an apprenticeship program yet. So what we found in talking with our students and also with registered apprenticeship programs like the IECs is could we figure out a way of putting a little bit of a plus into that pre-apprenticeship, and where the plus is basically that articulation agreement where the student isn't losing all those contact hours of training that they achieve through SEI. So that apprenticeship program is basically crosswalking it to their learning objectives, and we work with them directly to do that. And they can have up to one semester, which is 72 contact hours of training, or even in specialized cases, possibly up to 144 contact hours, which is equivalent to the first year of an apprenticeship program. So we're really excited about that program. Why are we doing that? We believe it's creating a pre-qualified employer-ready candidates. Often if a student is taking, over 100 contact hours or even 60 contact hours of training from SEI, maybe coming to one of our lab weeks, going through all of our different lab stations, you're pretty assured that you've got a pretty highly qualified candidate. They've got the energy in their belly. They really want to move forward with this. And so what we're finding is as we connect those folks with registered apprenticeship programs, that they know that person's going to probably want to stick with that job for quite some time. Obviously, with our documented related instruction hours, all of SEI's courses are aligned with the NEC code. We're aligning all of our content with IREC standards, SEIA standards. We work with American Clean Power. So we're always aligning our content with nationally recognized standards. And so those documented related instruction hours we know will crosswalk over to pretty much any apprenticeship program. And like I pointed out, higher retention, lower turnover, because we all know when you look at those employment statistics, the cost of a bad hire can often exceed the first year salary. We've talked to a lot of recruiters that are saying, hey, we need to make sure we're getting the right candidate into these positions because sometimes a bad hire can be even more expensive than one who just doesn't work out. Equity and access built in. Solar Energy International for over 35 years, we have taken pride in what we call now our SEI Empowerment Program, which is a scholarship program to ensure that we are giving access to this kind of training to populations of students that maybe historically haven't had access to highly technical training as pathways to good paying careers. And so at the core of who we are as an organization, as a nonprofit, yes, we are a leading technical organization, but we are a people organization first. And so SEI's empowerment program to ensure that we're working with industry and foundations, grant funding programs to make sure we have enough scholarship money to get into the hands of people that maybe don't have access to the funding to pay for tuition. Next slide. So how the articulation model works, we are mapping it. So for instance, when we worked with the IEC Rocky Mountain region, we looked at their learning objectives for their year one of an apprenticeship program. We did a crosswalk. And again, this is not an elective because when you look at a lot of what SEI is training, it's steeped into the NEC. We cover a lot of tool-based things. And so it definitely has a solar specific application. But a lot of the things that we're teaching from the meters and the testing and the solar math, when you crosswalk that to an apprenticeship program in the first year, you'll find that SEI's program has a lot of overlap there. So that's how we're able to do that, that crosswalk. And we've already covered the 144 documented hours year one. We're thinking that on average, most of our pre-apprenticeship plus program students will cover like that first semester. Only in probably very unique situations, we would have somebody that would have the full first year. And where we're finding that situation is like if somebody's already has been specifically been working for, let's say, like an electrical contractor or a solar contractor, where they have so much on the job training or coursework they've done or coursework they've taken from manufacturers. In that situation, they're kind of playing catch up a little bit just because they haven't been in a registered apprenticeship program. We want to make sure they're not losing all of that good training that they've already been working on. We are in active talks with other trade associations, the IBEW and other trade associations. So if you are on the call today and you represent a trade association or you have an apprenticeship program, like I said, we have 150 students starting SEI classes that we want to funnel into your apprenticeship program. So we are a great talent pipeline to work with. So if you are sponsoring your own program right now, definitely get a hold of us later on. The other big thing that kind of spurred this forward is I'm not sure how many folks we have here from Colorado, but this past year, Colorado passed Senate Bill 165, which really created NAPCEP certification was always recognized in the Colorado legislation, but this pathway towards licensure, right? And as you all know, through apprenticeship doesn't necessarily have to mean licensure, but in Colorado, this pathway to licensure is becoming a bigger focus. And so here at SEI, we wanted to make sure that, out of the 150,000 alumni that we have, that's for some of them, it could be 500 contact hours of training that they wanted to make sure that the state did recognize in some way, shape, or form. So we're working closely with the state of Colorado through DORA, through the IEC, through COSA, our state arm of our solar representation. So not all states require licensure and different jurisdictions require licensure, but for us, this is a great way for us to stay as part of that pipeline. And our goal is every graduate enters a full apprenticeship as documented pre-qualified candidates with recognized hours, not starting from zero. And I think that's the biggest frustration we were hearing from a lot of our students, especially those that had been working in the industry for maybe 3, 4, 5 years. I was even talking to one of our instructors who had been working in the solar industry for 20 years and said, if I have to go back and start off a year one apprenticeship pathway because of this new requirement, I want to make sure at least some of my training and experience is being recognized. And so that's kind of a lot of what the pre-apprenticeship plus program is meant to do. Next slide. So I think my call to action and actually my call for partnership to all of you that are on the call today, let's build this together. This work that we're doing through the NCEWA is great, working with IREC and all the partners here. I think we're going to be able to build as an industry and as a talent pipeline into these really important jobs. The more we can find ways to work together, these are going to be the pathways to success. As you all know, we're in a challenging moment right now, but it's meetings and webinars like this that keep me excited and keep me energized about the work that we're doing is important. And I think the work that the types of jobs we're getting our students into, these are good paying jobs with a future to them. And so the more ways we can find to work together, I think it's super critical. So again, if you have any interest in working with Solar Energy International, please reach out to me. info@solarenergy.org, or our phone number there is on the slide. But yeah, definitely looking to see at registered apprenticeship programs are a wave of the future, and this is our unique way of kind of being part of that conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to hear about the work being done at SEI and look forward to partnering with you as well. I'm Kirk-Ann Taylor, Executive Director of Climate Action Pathways for Schools, or CAPS, and we focus our efforts on the very beginning of the pipeline in K-12 schools. Next slide, please. Our work is centered on preparing students for meaningful careers in the green economy while also building climate resilient schools. So we operate at the intersection of sustainability and K-12 education and workforce development, ensuring that by the time students encounter the types of registered apprenticeships that we're discussing today, that they already have a foundation of technical experience and some career clarity to help them as they move forward. And what I'm going to share with you today is just an example of how we can foster partnerships earlier on within K-12 school communities to strengthen and build partnerships and pathways that will help students transition into clean energy jobs. And with IREC support, we've been on our own path of evolving our approach and partnerships with school districts into more formalized registered apprenticeship opportunities for students. So next slide, please. So we're a nonprofit organization, and as I shared, our mission integrates educational programming with paid work experience. We partner with school districts and communities on the front line of climate change to ensure that the professional pathways for climate and clean energy are inclusive and accessible from the start of a student's technical journey. So the students in our program develop a climate action plan for their school district, and then they implement that plan through various project areas, which I'll explore shortly. Next slide, please. And you can see here, this is a snapshot of our current school district partnerships in California. We currently operate through 3 regional hubs in Northern California and the Central Valley, where we got our start, and then in Southern California. And this range has allowed us to build partnerships and our newly registered sustainability specialist apprenticeship model across both urban and rural school communities in our state. Next slide, please. So a key highlight of our approach has been really utilizing school communities as climate laboratories. We work with school district leadership and develop projects around schools' own infrastructure to provide the technical foundation for both internships, pre-apprenticeships, and our new registered apprenticeship program. Students will work on one or all of these areas, depending on how many projects the school district has in action. Could be buildings decarbonization, transportation. We also have schools that are working on projects around zero waste, water, and food systems. And by working in partnership with the career education side of the house, as well as district facilities and business offices, students gain professional grade experience. And whether they're auditing building energy or mapping zero emission vehicle infrastructure on their own campuses, they are developing the specific technical competencies required for the sustainability specialist registered apprenticeship or other apprenticeships that they may want to pursue. Next slide. One foundation of our work is that K-12 schools are among the largest energy consumers in many communities, and yet the path to careers in this sector often remains invisible to students. And so by engaging with students at an earlier age and getting them exposure to addressing the infrastructure, we're trying to help both solve a climate problem and a workforce problem within the same ecosystem, and bridging that experience gap earlier on before students even graduate high school. Next slide. And so to ensure that our technical training is aligning with industry needs, we're both partnering with industry partners on implementation of these projects within school districts, But we also worked with global consulting firm Accenture and conducted analysis looking at the various sustainability areas where students were to take action in their school communities, and examining also the growth edge of those related career sectors in the state of California. And we were able to foresee some trends that you're all aware of, but that buildings, operations, and transportation are primary levers for change. And because these sectors also have high demand for labor, as we're just new to this process, but we've recently registered our sustainability specialist apprenticeship and really focusing on the buildings decarbonization piece as a major part of that apprenticeship program. Next slide, please. So our program works by starting as early as 10th grade, and high school students typically work with us anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a week during the school week, and then throughout the summer on summer intensive programs. This allows us to help them gain those specific technical skills earlier on. And then by the time they reach the age for the Registered Apprenticeship program, which in our case starts around 11th or 12th grade, they aren't just interested in clean energy, but they also have some industry competent skills that they are able to progress into the workforce. So next slide, please. And our registered apprenticeship pathway, our new sustainability specialist registered apprenticeship, is a 750-hour pathway, which builds on the earlier internship model that we developed. It starts with a 25-hour introductory internship, and then we scale that into a multi-year commitment. And by the time the student reaches the post-secondary level, they will have already completed significant work experience, earned certifications, and established a track record of performance. And this helps to create a seamless transition from K-12 into specialized industry roles. And so through this, we aren't, hopefully not just training students, but we're developing vetted technical workforce that's ready to hit the ground running. Next slide, please. And I think the impact of this model, is best seen through the students that have been a part of the program. You can see Giovanni featured here. As an intern, he was eager to gain a deeper understanding of zero emission vehicles and worked with the school district on a project. That district is now completely transitioning their full fleet to a zero emission fleet from a diesel fleet. And they're able to really see the impact of the work on the ground. And it's been a critical on-ramp from moving from initial curiosity into a space where they can actually work on a project, see it through, and develop the infrastructure and skills needed to move on to the next stage of their career. So next slide, please. One other thing that we've been working on is to ensure that our training is scalable and accessible to more school communities. We've partnered with Rivian and developed some turnkey resources like these module roadmaps. We provided this to all CTE programs across the state that want to integrate that. Each module has facilitator guides and citations and allows school districts to implement this into their any automotive pathways or other green pathways that they're looking to pursue. Next slide. And so our focus has really been on the early access point for students as they gain experience in the clean energy sector, but also pairing that with on the ground projects that help them see the impact of their work in their community and also in their own lives. We're part of an ecosystem and not doing this alone. And we really look forward to partnering with others who may want to connect with us or who have are looking for students that have some interest in clean energy careers, and you have training programs that would be great for the students that have gained this kind of experience within high school through the work that we've been doing. So we're very much excited to be a part of the broader conversations and be learning and growing our work together in partnership with everyone else. So thank you so much. And here's our contact information. You can reach out to us and love to stay connected.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Amy Lesniak. I am the Director of People and Systems Strategy for SkyMast Energy. We are based out of Houston. I oversee HR. I oversee the apprenticeship program that we run and all of our prevailing wage reporting and compliance. So I'm kind of coming from this from an employer perspective, running a program. I kind of want to highlight some best practices for culture shift, technology, all that. Next slide, please. So again, this serves as pretty much, an ROI for employers that are actually looking to start a program. I saw the reduction in turnover, and overseeing HR. This apprenticeship program made my job a lot easier. I currently have 25 apprentices, and I am hiring a bunch more this month. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of challenges. If a lot of you are working in clean energy currently, a lot of these jobs are blue collar, high turnover. Prevailing wage auditing and compliance has really hit a lot of these projects and companies hard that are hit with fines. They don't really know what to do. We've got crews that are moving under multiple different managers, journey workers. So really, how do you keep track of that? And as a business, you want your production. The customers need the turbines back up in service, right? So traditionally, a lot of focus has not been on the quality of the training and also risk compliance if you're not compliant on site. Next slide, please. So I have the pleasure of working with this organization that I have buy-in for apprenticeship across the entire thing, right? Everybody knows on paper it's good in practice, but do we really want to stretch thin the trainers and the managers that are on site? How do we know they're actually not pencil whipping the paperwork? How do they know we can do these competencies, right? Everybody's kind of stretched thin. It's high season for wind right now. We're rolling into it where I'm hiring a ton more of apprentices. How do we know that they're learning the skills they need to become a journey worker? How are we meeting the prevailing wage compliance expectations? And so 6 months after a project is done, our customer doesn't come back to us and say, we didn't have enough apprentices on site. We weren't meeting the wage requirements. Now we got to back pay these guys and track them down $3,000 and they're no longer with the company. Next slide, please. So what I did is I took our Appendix A. I worked very closely with our operations team. They were already doing evaluations right at the end of the project at the every 6-month mark. I gave them the Appendix A. We made sure that it matched what it was doing on site in our scopes of work. And we tie the evaluations to the Appendix A specifically. So that way our timesheets and everything, we can track in real time what these apprentices are learning, what they're doing. We use a lot of AI and data to track these. When they're on the site, they can prove to us they're doing the task correctly. Journey worker signs off, all of that. Related instruction, a lot of that is their certifications they get on the front end before going on site, but also recertification. We have an LMS for continued education. And then their wage progression and their wages are actually not based on how long they've been with us, but their skills. I wrote this as a competency-based program. So that way, if we've got some fast learners that are ready to lead a crew, they're not stuck in this program for a full 2 years. On the other hand, I've got some people that maybe aren't picking it up just as fast, but we're keeping them in this program longer to make sure that, our leads are spending extra time with them so they can learn these skills. And I've worked with a lot of organizations helping them start up their programs for prevailing wage. And what I have seen, if you're only doing it to avoid fines or the tax credits, your program's going to fail in practice. So it's really important to, it's a culture shift and it does take time and the ROI is not immediate, right? But I've seen it. I'm happy to provide a bunch more data if there's any other employers or organizations that would like to know about it from my perspective. Next slide, please. Again, so this is pretty much how it runs. Well, before I came on board, this organization was hiring individuals, pulling them in off Indeed, sending them to certification training, then sending them to a site. And I'm like, they don't even know what company they work for. No wonder your turnover is high. So every new employee that we hire, especially the apprentices, I fly them into our shop in Houston. They get to know us, our core values, our expectations. We explain the apprenticeship program to them because especially with these younger workers, what I find is they want to know that you're invested in them. They don't want to just be another number at a company. And we're guaranteed you're going to be making more money and we're investing extra time and training in you to make sure that you can be successful in this field. And we also have our operations. We've got field trainers that actually go in and do audits and check to make sure that the program is actually running. Again, I'm about to show you some technology that I have built where the on-the-job tracking will directly tie to the evaluation checkpoints and again, the wage progression. Next slide, please. And if a lot of you on this webinar are working in green energy, you should be familiar with prevailing wage, which has been really fun. So we've worked hard to implement technology for, fringe benefits you can't annualize and everything to calculate that. So we meet those wage requirements. And our customers, we can get real-time reporting on that and remain in compliance because nobody wants to fail an audit or owe more money. Next slide, please. So again, it definitely reduced after the first year the apprenticeship program was in operation, 28% turnover reduction, which is huge. All of our apprentices get amazing feedback. I've actually been given the green light to hire more people new to the industry because our program is doing so well and they're learning so much rather than somebody who'd been in the field a long time and brought bad habits with them to our work sites. And then it's a transparency, right? The apprentices want to know where they're at, what they're learning. We're showing our customers that we're in compliance and we're actually hiring quality individuals and investing time in them. So when we are subcontracting on sites, they know what they're getting. Next slide, please. So this is an example of one of the things that I've built. This is a snapshot example for one of our apprentices. You can quickly see how many hours they've completed, job functions. They have not started in troubleshooting yet. They're active in, the safety and environment, preventative maintenance. We have a little bit, this takes some rapids data here. So we have their 671 sign. They have passed their probationary period. And I've kind of created this as a one pager for different customers to see, how far are your apprentices through the program? Do we have somebody who needs to be paid at a higher wage per the Davis-Bacon Act? All these things. So I've kind of created customizable things based on what they want to see and what the apprentice wants to see. We had one of our apprentices come back who's been with us 6 months and he wanted a $7 an hour raise. So it was good for us to be able to come back here and be like, well, have you completed these? And he was like, oh, okay, all right, I'll calm down and I'll get back to work. Next slide, please. So we can dive a lot deeper into the data for us. So this is another example of an apprentice. Shows their hours, their wage currently, their progression to the journey worker wage. And we can swap this to a customer view so we're not giving away a lot of PII on these individuals. Next slide, please. So this here is showing that they had an evaluation. Here were their ratings, the sites they were on, and then again, how many hours they've completed. He has not completed his minimum hours for these projects yet. So everybody, leadership, their trainers in the field, the apprentices themselves can see the things they might not have been rated so high on and what they need to work on. And again, it's tied directly to the Appendix A competencies. Next slide, please. Here's another review data here, and at the bottom we have the Rapids info, which on these prevailing wage projects you need to have the apprentice number, the certification, all of this here. So all of this information is in databases that we have to not only for every stakeholder, basically. Next slide, please. And then this is exactly the Appendix A job functions and competencies tied to the evaluations again. So green light means that they've completed. The yellow, they're working on this. And on the right here, you can see that they have not started these yet. Because sometimes they'll be on sites only doing one thing. So for us, if they've gotten stuck and they can't progress in the program, then we know to send them to a job site with a slightly different scope of work. Next slide, please. So for me, the technology has been instrumental, like coding, building things with AI. It's great. Our customers love it. Our apprentices love it. But at the end of the day, it is a culture shift. And you need buy-in from leadership because there are startup costs and confusing paperwork and things like that, which IREC has helped us tremendously. But if your organization is willing to make that investment because it's much cheaper to retain and upskill your workforce in any industry than having high turnover. So yeah, I'm happy to provide more information on these dashboards reporting. We actually provide apprentice labor to other organizations and support their programs as well, because we are a group non-joint, meaning we can take on other employers and serve as a fractional sponsor for them. I believe that is the end of mine. Thank you.
Awesome. I will pop in here, and that was a great segue. I appreciate it, Amy. Amy and I work together on a lot of things. So my name is Natasha Sherwood. I am the Workforce Development Director for Independent Electrical Contractors and National Association. Prior to this, I was the Executive Director down in Florida for our Florida chapter down there. Next slide. So Independent Electrical Contractors is a nonprofit trade association and federation. So essentially it's a bottom-up driven organization with our 54 chapters across the country that deliver our apprentice program. Next slide. And so this organization represents more than 4,300 member businesses and educates more than 20,000 electrical apprentices across the country. About 700 of those are down in Florida. The rest spread out across the country. The four-year curriculum, the main program, those 20,000 electrical apprentices, is maintained and standards filed federally that then allow those chapters to pour into it what is correct for their state. I saw a lot of different states here, and so everything's a little bit different. Everywhere's got their own rules and regulations, and then every company then of those 4,300 member businesses are able to then customize the OJT, keep their secret sauce the secret sauce. Next slide. And so I don't have a lot of slides. I'm not a slide person. And I'm last. So I thought I'd wrap up some great tips and topics, things that we have seen work in apprenticeship. And I think one of the big things I'll say about apprenticeship, and as you're looking into this, whether you're looking to join it as an employee or employer take it on, is that apprenticeship is a big group. We're a big gang that like to help each other out. And every bit of growth in our association, when I started in 2019, we had 150. And in 2026, we have 700 apprentices in Florida, has been because we believe in the concept that a rising tide raises all ships. And as we work together, like Amy said, she can help out other organizations. We heavily believe in the concept of group sponsorship. And group sponsorship allows for, I saw a question a little bit earlier about how the small, medium-sized family run organizations, how do they survive? And group sponsorship is the answer to that. And the fact that from a construction background, construction angle, we hide the wires behind the wall and we let in our world, the electricians do what they do well, electrical, and the on-the-job training, what they need to do. Then we collaborate together on what's offered in the RTI, the related technical instruction in the classroom that is then put together by the group. This makes it sustainable and affordable, and something that, small groups, we have 1 and 2 man shops in our programs, up to 1,000-person shops in the same classroom. And so what that does is it makes it sustainable, because a 1-man shop's going to hire 1, maybe 2 every couple of years. And you can't afford an instructor on that, or someone to put in the rapids, to put in the file and track the OJT, all the hours for for IRA type reporting. So to me, group sponsorship is a huge concept that everybody, if you can jump onto that, it makes things so much easier. And it makes the ability for apprenticeship to be doable for any size, for that mom and pop, but the question was, or medium-sized family business, because you can customize it and you use the group atmosphere. I did want to touch on a couple of this in those kind of few minutes of some things of how we're getting the topic was connecting job seekers to registered apprenticeship. And what we have found in working with this is going down really as far down as we can. And right now that's into elementary and middle school, doing summer camps, connecting them to the high school programs. We do a camp just for girls, so they feel comfortable and they can ask the questions. And then we move them into our pre-apprentice programs in our high schools. And although we do have some adult pre-apprentice programs, what we really focused on is creating the pre-apprentice in the high school programs and registering them as full pre-apprentices with the pathway, pun intended, the conduit to an electrical apprentice program with us. But going back to the beginning, what I said is, even if they decide electrical is not the right thing for them, what we found out is that we're feeding all kinds of other skilled trades, which we all need. And so that becomes this opportunity to really start to work as a group of apprentices and a group of skilled labor and a group of focused on our communities rather than let me get all mine. And what we've seen is it's worked. It's worked across everyone who's been in the same mindset has seen that growth. And what we've done this year is that next step is school to apprentice. And what we did was we worked with students who were interested in it. We got them young. They did all of their high school work between 11th grade and 12th grade. They're actually technically dual enrolling. They're still technically high school students. They're working full time on jobs and going to school at night with our apprentices. So they will actually graduate high school in just a few weeks here in May. They will have already completed their first year of OJT as well as the RTI. And one of them told me that he's making more money than his dad. And so we know that we're making a shift in that pattern. And then we just continue that pipeline. So middle school to K-12 to tech colleges, which is where the next kind of key on this school to apprentices, that we partner with our local education partners. And they are able to help provide funding. So in Florida, apprentices cannot pay tuition. There is no tuition for them. It is completely free. And so they're able to do some workforce dollars. So I suggest one of those is how do you make it available and how do you break down those barriers is to looking to your local education or your state education agency. So your K through 12 school systems, your tech colleges, your community/state colleges, whatever they call them where you are. Actually tomorrow, I'm working with a community college in Nebraska who's going to start implementing our IEC goal into it. I skipped workforce boards, or I typed it out of order. And what we've been doing is really trying to work with our local and state workforce boards. And how do we get them to help be those group sponsors? Especially going back to that question about the medium-owned businesses, is that the workforce boards know a lot of that funding. I just saw the WIOA question come in, which is perfect. And what we've been working with is some of those WIOA waivers, as well as some of those WIOA dollars. They have to be qualified for it, but whether through whether displaced youth or whatnot, but our workforce boards, we have worked in Florida to help them become actual sponsors of the programs, integrated in it, and then they're able to help decide and help implement those WIOA dollars. It's different across every single state. So to answer that's going to be difficult. WIOA in Texas actually helps pay per credit hour for apprentice. In Florida, it's different among all 27 different workforce boards, but there is the opportunity for it. So it's really digging into individual workforce boards, but feel free to reach out. I definitely could try to connect you with the group. I just spoke at the workforce boards with Amy. We saw everybody there. And the last one is, and this is probably my biggest thing, is I am all into breaking china that no longer serves a purpose. And so I love my grandma's china. I keep it. But if it's like the Santa Fe colored china I have in my cabinet that I'm just keeping because I had it, get rid of it and try something new. And so whether that means helping other people write standards, Susan Vazuski-Ebert's on here is helping us write cyber, because there's that cybersecurity is an area that a lot of my electrical contractors are going into. They're not staying with that same china they've done. Low voltage has been a big lift. EV chargers. We helped Awesome Construction do their solar. And then we've started seeing, what else do you need? Our employees and our apprentices needed childcare. So we helped somebody else with childcare apprentices. Manufacturing needed electricians. Okay, so let's help manufacturing. And then, so as we went into that big group, we found out the power of purpose of working together and sharing kind of those different opportunities. And then it fit a little bit more. And so I know, kind of speaking fast, but there's my LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to share all the crazy ideas that we possibly could come together, because every now and then one of those pieces of spaghetti will stick when we throw it on the wall. And in the long run, I will say, and this is my just closing story, is that I one day received a phone call from a gentleman who said, hey, I just need to know if my record might keep me from, or would have any policies and procedures that would keep me from being in your program because of my record. And I asked him, I said, do you share the record or not? You don't have to. And he's like, no, it's fine. I had a felony murder conviction when I was 16. I got in a fight. And unfortunately, the other person in the fight died. I had no work history. I spent 25 years in prison, but I've been released. And I said, can I share that with my contractors? And he said, share everything if I can get a job. 72 hours he was hired and working. He's maintained an A average. He's in his third year in apprentice. Because of him, we looked at starting a Department of Juvenile Justice program in Florida. And we had a young man who was incarcerated from 16 to 20. He still maintains his innocence. He's one of the sweetest things I've ever seen. He couldn't look at a Zoom when we first started, but he got early release, graduated. He just bought his own car. He's finishing his first year as an apprentice with one of our contractors with a 91.4% average, sends me pictures when he buys his steel toe boots. And although he has a girlfriend that all of his mamas were not sure if we'd definitely approve of, he's making a life for himself that he never thought he would have because we got together on that. So my suggestion is to lean into apprenticeship as a community, as a group, and let us know how we can help you.
Thanks so much, Natasha, and to all of our presenters so far. That brings us to the Q&A portion of today's presentation. And we have a handful of questions that have come in, but we definitely have time for additional ones if folks have things that you're wondering about. I think a couple of these have been touched upon as some of our presenters were speaking, but in the interest of making sure that everyone can weigh in, if they have something to add, I will ask them again. So the first question that we have is about the fact that in the home retrofit industry, which is predominantly comprised of small and medium-sized family-owned businesses, it's hard for harder for pre-apprenticeship graduates to find good paying jobs in energy efficiency. And the individual is asking, what are some of the options for addressing this challenge? Does anyone want to speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, I can cover that just from our perspective here at SCI. We get a lot of calls from employers that are in the exact same situation. They don't feel like they have enough bandwidth as far as like human resources support. And we working especially with organization in Colorado, CAM Solar, more of a cooperative registered apprenticeship program where they handle all of the human resources and DOL compliance, the training. We're partnering with them, doing some of SCI training through their program. So I hope that as this grows, that there become more group cooperative opportunities. And I think maybe some of the other panelists can speak to that a little bit more. But I have seen that as a great need. There needs to be more cooperatives, more cooperative sponsorships. Here at SCI, we actually toyed with the idea of becoming a sponsor of our own program. But as we, looked at how much, human resources oversight that was going to take, we wanted to stay in our lane of creating curriculum and training. So, but I am aware there are cooperative opportunities out there for registered apprenticeship programs to look into.
Yeah, and I just want to mention that is one of the great value of being an ACE network partner and being listed on Green Workforce Connect. The idea there is if there was an employer that was curious, they could go into Green Workforce Connect, they could connect, they could see what programs were in their area, and we can, they can connect directly with them, or IREC can help connect you with them so that if they're willing to take on a sponsor. Amy, I'm working with SkyMast right now with a potential employer that's, looking to see what their options are rather than become their own sponsor, but join with SkyMast. So that's certainly another option as Natasha. And then in home performance, I mean, the whole idea of these career pathways, I think is amazing. And Natasha gave us some great examples of that. But that is one of the reasons why IREC and BPA work together, particularly in the home performance, and created what we call a lattice apprenticeship. And that is available on our national guideline standards. And also, I think the other one is up, Gwen, the key occupations. It is included in there on our Green Workforce Connect. So you can see, and it explains exactly how they are tied in together.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Susan. And thanks also, Chris. And we'll get those links dropped in the chat in a little while. One of the other questions that came in, and I know Natasha touched on this a little bit, but I think it might be helpful for others to weigh in if they have anything to add. How do you collaborate with Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, or WIOA, local boards? And what has helped them braid their funds for registered apprenticeship?
I can talk a little bit on that. I was in Florida for 30 years. I'm new to Texas, so I am getting my feet wet in the workforce ecosystem here. But I know that the workforce boards, the workforce commission, they all work very closely together. Here we have the Gulf Coast Regional Apprenticeship Hub. We've got colleges, everything. So you're able to braid funding, from sources like IREC. I have funds coming in from an H-1B grant, and then also I can use WIO dollars from the boards for a lot of our new hires, especially because the individuals that I hire, they are unemployed, they are underemployed, right? And so it allows us to access wage reimbursement. It allows us to access offsetting the cost of the certifications that these individuals have to go through, because it's not cheap to get certified to work on a wind site. These certs that they need to even show up can cost $5,500 per individual, and that's just something we're having to pay up front. But I was working closely with the boards in Florida as well. And like Natasha mentioned, every region is a little bit different from what they offer. But in my experience, reaching out to them, doing a little research on their website. And if you're running an apprenticeship program, no matter what state you're in, more often than not, there's going to be some funding that can help you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amy. The other question that we've gotten is about who is your ideal student, and that came in during the SkyMass presentation. So it may have been specifically about SkyMass programs, or if that was your question, feel free to drop something in the chat to clarify.
Well, I mean, I take students from everywhere. So, but I've hired Walmart meat cutters, scaffold builders. For me, it's just individuals that want to work. Obviously, specifically for wind, it's hard work. You're climbing up 100 feet in the air, working 12-hour days and things like that. So we try to be really upfront about the aspects of the job. But if you come in with a good attitude and you're willing to learn and you're not afraid of heights, I've hired from every industry.
Yeah, I'm gonna tackle that a little bit too, because I think we've seen a lot of times students will come into Solar Energy International's program just assuming that they want to be on the roof or out in the field on job sites. And I think very quickly they realize that maybe they want to find a different career pathway, maybe within maybe being like a safety organizer or a warehouse superintendent. And I think through SEI's pre-apprenticeship program, it gives them that opportunity to find their way in the solar industry. I mean, obviously in clean energy, there's a lot of different jobs. Not every job leads to turning a wrench. And so I think through pre-apprenticeship programs, it gives them, and then working through a lot of the IREC, the new IREC orientation program, it's going to give them the opportunity to see themselves. Do they have transferable skill sets or previous work experience? Maybe they don't want to do that anymore. Maybe they want to work in an office. And so I think having those pre-apprenticeship and orientation opportunities like what IREC and SEI are offering, I think that's the critical part, is making sure we're getting people into the right pathway.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris. And I know I'll just add that for the apprenticeship ready course that IRAC is getting ready to launch, there's a big emphasis on the fact that apprenticeships can be for anyone. And as you may have noticed in the scenario exercise that Matthew was showing, we try to help people understand that whether you're, switching industries or, looking for a new career, or you're coming straight out of high school, maybe you're somebody with a justice background, or someone with young kids, there's a big emphasis on trying to show that this can be a path that can work for a lot of different types of people. All right, I think that brings us to the end of the questions that we've gotten so far. So with that, Matthew, did you want to add something?
Actually, I wanted to ask Kirk Ann a question.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious, Kirk-Ann, with your program for those students that get placed with employers, are you all like collecting data? Like, what's that feedback loop with those employers about, how those learners are landing in the job with the skills and knowledge that they have? Is it resulting in wage increases or, additional certifications or knowledge? And then how's that feedback coming to you all for your programming? I'm curious if that's part of what you all have incorporated.
Yeah, so and we just registered our sustainability specialist apprenticeship, so we just have the first cohort going. But from our internship program prior, we do have industry partners who have hired students on that had the opportunity to work with them on projects as interns. And those industry partners have provided feedback on the apprenticeship program, and then we're doing employer agreements as we move forward. So we're still really early stages, and we don't have that many. So we're in like kind of regular conversation with our employer partners. Now, as that grows, we're developing evaluation systems, and we also will have ways of tracking that. But right now, we're still so small that it's been more conversive. And our first students that have graduated are just now, we have our first group of students that were our very earliest interns 5 years ago that are just now leaving college. For those that went to college, the first cohort just graduated college. So we're still pretty young and growing.
Yeah, that's great. It's an important piece that often I think gets missed after people leave training programs. So it's good to have that connection.
And
Look forward to seeing how that evolves.
Thank you. And I was just going to follow up just on the working with the workforce investment boards. We have been working some with the local workforce investment boards in the LA region to provide some braided funding opportunities for school districts in the LA region, where they're providing some of the wages and also some support through WIOA dollars, some of the wages for students that are going to be entering the apprenticeship. And they provided funding to help school districts develop pre-apprenticeships that will connect to our apprenticeship. So that's a current way that we're working with the investment boards.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kirk-Ann. With that, I'm going to just share a couple of closing updates and reminders before we wrap up. Thank you again to all of our fantastic presenters and for all of you in the audience and your great questions and engagement. As I mentioned before, we do have Alliance webinars every other month. So our next one will be in late June, and then we have another one in August. And anyone that's on the Alliance list will be updated as soon as we release the speaker and presentation details for those. We also have a couple of upcoming events that IREC will be participating in. So my colleague, Pagan Pajoni, who heads up our workforce team, will be speaking at the Apprenticeships for America Summit in May, and we'll be dropping the link in the chat for that. And IREC will also have staff at Intersolar Midwest in Rosemont, Illinois, June 15th through 17th, and at the Rise Leadership Summit in Chicago, September 29th through October 1st. Next slide. And then lastly, I just wanted to share a couple of opportunities for folks that may be interested to collaborate with IREC. The first is we are partnering with MEF Associates on a national research study that is looking at how training providers' relationships with employers affect workers' employment outcomes. And this is actually a paid opportunity. So for those training providers that choose to participate, they will get an honorarium, and the involvement or the work involves a 1 hour phone conversation and sharing some aggregated data on the job market outcomes of your program participants. So if that is something that you are interested in, Matthew is actually the point person for that. You can email Matthew at the email address that we will drop in the chat. And then next slide, please, Matthew. The other two things that I wanted to mention are we at IREC are working with the Building Performance Association to provide some additional technical assistance to employers developing home energy and building performance registered apprenticeships. That QR code, you can scan that if you would like to request some of our support. And then lastly, another initiative that we're working on is helping to get people connected with careers in IT for clean energy. And in particular, we're looking to showcase some people that are actually working in these jobs and give job seekers a sense of what those roles might be like. So we're looking for people who can commit to a 45-minute interview. And we will record the video of that and then turn it into an edited video that will be available on Green Workforce Connect. If that is something you are interested in, or if you want to pass that on to somebody that you know that works in IT who might be interested, the way to get in touch is info@greenworkforceconnect.com. And I think that brings me to our last slide. There are a number of ways that you can stay in touch if you enjoyed today's webinar. If you're not already signed up for the Alliance newsletter or email updates, that first QR code will bring you to the webpage on IREC's website, and there's a form you can fill out. And then we also have a pretty active LinkedIn group that you are welcome to join. You can do so using that last QR code. And with that, I know we're at time, so I'd just like to extend a big thank you to our fantastic panelists for sharing their perspectives today. And again, to all of you for joining us. Thank you so much.